welcome to Talent Weekly Office Hours, the segment in which we distill this week's news on talent, work, and education. I'm Daniel. Every Friday, members of Future Talent Council receives a weekly digest email called Talent Weekly. It's a curated selection of the most important news from sources around the world, all curated by our editorial desk. This show, Office Hours, aims to look at some of those featured news pieces and ask for more context. What does this mean? Why are these developments important to me, and how can I use these insights in my work right now? With me to sort through this today is Nancy Gleason, Associate Professor of Political Science at NYU Abu Dhabi and Director at the Hillary Balance Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. Nancy, welcome.
Great. Thanks for having me today.
How is Abu Dhabi today this morning?
Oh, it's beautiful outside, as always this time of year. Fabulous weather.
Exactly, as always, right? Listen, Nancy, you are teaching university courses on the fourth industrial revolution, future work, a lot of sustainability angles as well. And I would personally call you an absolute expert on future skills. Now, listen. You have been leading the news cycle this week. One could argue, right? If we look at it, ChatGPT and GPT-4 are terms that are being talked about just everywhere, right? On the Talent Weekly newsletter this week, we've linked to your LinkedIn article on this exact thing. So, without further ado, in your words, what has happened and what does this mean for us right here?
Right. So on March 14th, a variety of different tech firms decided to release new platforms and new capabilities. The famous one, the one that's actually leading the news cycle, is GPT-4, which is a platform released, or a large language model augmentation released inside ChatGPT Plus. So it's behind the OpenAI's paid service of generative AI in text. And this has been highly anticipated. It had tons of hype about it on the internet for the last 6 months, and it's finally here. And people willing to pay $20 a month have had access to it as of the evening of March 14th. And it's been very exciting since then with all its capabilities.
Yeah. No more. Netflix binges. This is $20. Is that a good price? You would say worth it?
I think so. I think it'll go up though. I think this is early days.
So, jokes aside, what does it mean? What is it? How good is it? I mean, I remember then, ChatGPT. I mean, the first news cycle around, already then you heard people saying, "Oh, just wait. It'll get better. It'll improve." Right? How? I mean, what is? How would you describe this technology, and how could it impact what we do here right now?
Yeah, so the GPT-4 is extremely sophisticated.
Mm,
It's leaps and bounds more capable than the earlier version, which was already surprising everyone. And
yeah.
what OpenAI is doing is socializing this to us before they release even more powerful versions. And this
Mm,
is when you hear tech firms saying that they're pursuing safety and responsibility,
yeah.
because it's quite overwhelming what it can do. But it can
Mm,
write convincingly
yeah.
at a very high level. It can produce, the new version can produce 25,000 words of text and take that in. The old version was only 4,000 words. It can translate into hundreds of languages. The old version was only 59 languages.
Mm,
It's purported to be able to take a picture and turn that into text, but the initial launch doesn't have that capability there yet. So maybe that will come next week. They did show it in the demo, but it's not there when you actually log in.
yeah.
And it's much, if you will, smarter.
Yeah.
So it does better on the GRE, the LSATs, the SATs, all AP
Yeah.
exams. They even ran it through a sommelier test and it got an 86%. So it's comparable to thinking humans. It really is.
Yeah. And simplifying it, if I need to write a personal letter for when I apply for a job or an essay in school, all these things. I mean, again, very simplified. You now have a super assistant doing it for you.
In seconds. So it makes you
Yeah.
much more efficient. You still want
Yeah.
to proofread it. It still has
Yeah.
biases, hallucinations. It can do adversarial
Make
prompts.
stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I mean, you can ask it for a book summary and it can make it up. We call this,
Yeah.
they don't know why it does it. They call it hallucinations.
Yeah. Dangerous. But and you've previously said and been writing about that there might be a before and an after ChatGPT and the GPT 3 and 4, etc. Right? And maybe a before and an after in how work and society are being organized. And you have even said that maybe the nature of how we consider expertise is changing. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason why I say this is a before and after for humanity, because the way in which we organize ourselves, the
Mm,
skills we value in the workplace, the expertise we pay for and recruit for in the workplace changes as a result of this. Because the
yeah,
stuff you are doing now, you don't need to do anymore. Now, in the talent world, we would call this perishable versus durable skills. And a whole
yeah,
bunch of skills that used to be durable are now perishable. And that happened
yeah,
on March 14th. So that's what
mm,
I mean by a before and an after. But
mm,
also, obviously, not all firms are adopting this. Not everyone can afford access. But if you are working with a computer most of the day, you should be using this tool. It will make you more efficient. Now,
mm,
is it going to replace your job? That's a different issue. Most likely, someone who knows how to use AI is going to replace you in your job, not
yeah,
an AI. But there are certainly some things this can do. I mean, I don't think you need to hire someone to write your tweets anymore. That this can do that for you very quickly and very well.
mm, yeah. Yes. So, let's look at some more examples of how can we be accelerated by this technology.
Yeah, so there's a fabulous paper out from MIT professors talking about where exactly the efficiencies are. And what they
Mm,
found was for white collar jobs, it increases efficiency by 34%. So a
mm,
task that took someone in a white collar job 27 minutes to do takes only
mm,
10 minutes to do with ChatGPT.
mm,
And what do you do with that extra 40% capacity? Either
yeah,
you take on different projects, or maybe you have a 4-day work week and you keep your same salary.
yeah,
And so these are the kinds of things that corporations and policy experts in ministries are going to have to address at the national level. Maybe if you work in a country with organized labor, they're
mm,
definitely going to have to get involved. And so this is why it's phased transformation. And
yeah,
anyone who's not transforming will eventually uh, be shut down.
yeah. So that's and I want to, I'm going to segue into the 4-day work week. I'm not going to let you go on that one, but just I mean, again, I like sort of, I'm not going to say that I like simplifying things, but isn't it fascinating that this, we tend to talk about, oh, what is going to mean if I have to hand away these tasks to a software or to a technology? What is that going to mean for me, kind of thing, right? But maybe the more interesting discussion, like you sort of pointed out, is, well, the big change and the big transformation might rather be what will happen with those 40% that I sort of get back of my time. That might be the big transformation.
Yeah. So the way this has been classified is that there are new ways to do our jobs. And this is the case for hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah.
So the space, that the time it takes to reskill, upskill, and rehire and fire
Mm,
is what we're dealing with right now in the work and talent space.
mm, mm,
People who've taken it on themselves to go ahead and learn how to use this technology are already ahead of the game.
yeah.
When HR and corporates catch up to this, that's a different issue and probably something that matters on a national scale,
Mm.
and really depends on the demographics of the country you're working in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 100%. And if I'm a professor right now standing in front of students and thinking, okay, this is gonna mess with the whole essay game. With we have to shut it down. That then rather the big service to those students are learning how to work with that kind of technology and alongside it, right?
Yeah, and I think so. Universities are responding in different ways in different countries. Here in the
Mm,
United Arab Emirates, the Ministry of Education has announced it will be embedded in the schools. Every student will get an individualized AI tutor,
mm,
and um, you know, when and how we think about if students can use it has to also be in partnership with governments,
yeah.
so that it's fair and consistently applied for the students.
Mm,
And so in the individual classroom, we have to think about what is fraud, what is plagiarism, and how could this de-skill the student,
yeah.
and then go on from there and think about, is there a regulatory environment that would help us? Can we work with
Mm,
accreditors?
mm,
What structural supports can we give teachers?
mm,
But on an individual level, as a faculty member who's got fabulous students,
yeah.
i don't I don't think it's a bad thing for an AI to help me craft my feedback, and then have more time to work with the student one-on-one to talk about that feedback,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than spending an hour figuring out if it's a B or an A.
Exactly. And if you're an employer, same thing there. I guess embedded is a key word, right? How do we work with the technology? How can I, reskill, upskill, take your terminology to have everyone in this organization be accelerated by technology?
Yeah, and I mean, we're already seeing that this is an equity issue for
Yeah.
people who can afford the paid version and people who cannot. And
Mm.
so in the schools
Wow.
and the workplace,
Yeah.
there's an obligation to train people how to use it, because those who do have it are
Yeah.
advantaged at being more efficient and perhaps better at their jobs.
Yeah. Oh God, the scientific or the scientific, the science fiction reader in me immediately started to think about that equity piece, right? And how, if we accelerate that development, will I be able to, will it be, let's not dive into that. But again, you know, because that will be accelerated as well, right? Who can afford a new brain, a new memory, a new body, a new technology? That's all. I mean, you could see it, right?
It's not far away. And this is why getting it right now in the corporate structure, knowing your ethics, putting your laws and rules in place are
Mm,
so important, because the things coming down the line, you don't get to decide over time.
mm,
It's
mm,
going
mm.
to be in front of you or it's not. So, as an individual, are you going to let your children marry someone with a brain computer interface chip in their brain? Or are
Oh
you going to
wow.
not let them marry someone
Yeah.
without that? Right? We're going to start to have
Yeah.
disparities in human enhancements.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of that. It's just not connected to us.
Yeah. Wow. Um, you mentioned the 4-day work week. I always trust you. I'm one of those, like, oh, flexibility, fantastic. That's a new trend. That's new this. What do we know? What does actually work? What is the data telling us about this thing?
Yeah. So if it's done properly, it works
Mm,
well. And when I say
mm,
done properly, that means not pursuing a condensed work week. So
yeah.
there's been tons of studies that show that taking the 5-day work week, around 40 to 48 hours, and condensing it to 4 days causes stress, unhappiness, and still a lack of flexibility. What you really want to do is recognize the efficiencies that technology has given us,
Mm,
pay people the same, and have them come in fewer days of work. But
mm,
the economy still runs 7 days a week.
yeah.
So this is where either governments are subsidizing jobs or someone else is subsidizing jobs. And you're
Mm,
increasing the number of jobs, because
mm,
the employee that took my space, I do that work 4 days and someone else does my job 3 days. That
mm,
doesn't work for every type of employee.
no.
But to where it can, you can still run the economy 7 days a week efficiently. You do need to pay more people and you create more jobs when you do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not going to create more jobs, you can still let the people who are employed have a flexible 4-day work week.
Yeah. What do we know about, the tests that have been running around the world, right? Does it work for them?
Yeah, there's been 4 or 5 large trials across Europe. Here in the UAE, we have a 4.5-day work week, um, and we're seeing more tourism, so more economic
Mm,
spikes there, more
yeah.
happiness, less burnout. I think still a lot of burnout,
Mm,
but less
mm,
burnout, and
mm,
generally firms wanting to stick with it once the trial ends.
yeah.
Now, this doesn't work in every culture and every work context, and sometimes it's something where hospitals run 24 hours, right? So
Yeah.
these kinds of things, right? Schools
Yeah.
run 5 days a week. So it's
Yeah.
very confusing to have your kids come home at noon on Friday if you're still working till 4 p.m., 5 p.m. on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
Right? So we have this challenge here in the UAE for some employees, depending on what type
Yeah.
of employer you have.
Yeah.
But I think this is an inevitable um, option for a lot of countries, because the alternative is universal basic income. You
Yeah.
have to distribute the benefits of the efficiencies made from AI and the automation of tasks somehow. And the 4-day
Mm,
work week is a very politically palatable way to do it.
yeah. Nancy, thank you so much. Thank you for writing so eloquently about ChatGPT and the technology, the transformation there. As I said, that is the piece that we linked to in Talent Weekly this week. And thank you so much for being here with me today.
Great. Thanks for having me. See you soon.